Okay, so Poppy Playtime Chapter 5 came out not too long ago, and honestly, I'm a little mixed on this chapter. Like, there is a lot of stuff I really liked about this chapter, but there's also some stuff I didn't really like that much. So let's just go over the stuff I did like about this chapter, and the stuff I didn't like about this chapter. And I feel like the best way of doing it is splitting the video into the two halves of this chapter, because the two halves of this chapter feel wildly different from each other. So yeah, let's just get right into it with the first half of the chapter. And spoiler warning for Poppy Playtime Chapter 5, if you don't want to get spoiled, please click off the video now. So I will say one of the biggest highlights of this chapter was the opening with the Huggy Wuggy chase. Like the full opening where you like go through the lab and stuff, like Huggy Wuggy is just on your ass the whole time. I absolutely loved it. Like they throw you straight into the action with this chapter. Like just having Huggy Wuggy chase you immediately and then just him not giving up at all. I absolutely loved that part. It was really stressful and I really loved that. And I also did like the setting of this chapter, like having it set in the lab. I thought it was pretty nice. It gives me small Resident Evil vibes. And yeah, not really much else to say about the lab setting, but I do think the lab setting is nice. And it's also kind of disturbing at the same time, just because you know that this is where they experimented on the children and made them into these toys. So it's kind of disturbing at the same time in these labs. And I also really enjoy the new characters they introduced in this first half of the chapter. Like Giblet was a big surprise. When I saw him in the trailer, I wasn't really that excited for him, but I started really loving him when they introduced him and just getting to see him more and more. I just love Giblet. I love his personality. I love his voice and just the voice acting and just how the character is. I really like Giblet. And also Chum Chumpkins, I love that dude. If Chum Chumpkins doesn't have a single supporter, then I am dead. And also one part of this chapter that was really disturbing in my opinion was the Huggy Wuggy flashbacks. These were honestly so disturbing, especially the second one. Like the fact that like if the other toys doesn't participate in the activity, you have to throw them in the bad toys box. And it doesn't sound like horrific or anything, just throwing in the bad toys box. But then you hear like some meat grinding noises when you throw them in there and you realize that, yeah, they're dead. You kill them when you throw them into that box. And it's so disturbing, and just picking up that first toy and just hearing them pleading for their lives. It is horrific. I felt so bad throwing the other toys into the bad toys box. It was just so horrific. Like the other two Huggy Wuggy memories are pretty disturbing as well, but it was the second one that was the most disturbing out of all of them in my opinion. And then the first half of this chapter does end on a bit of a stinker. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Huggy Wuggy boss fight. I felt like a lot of the boss fight was just waiting around to get the opportunity to even like turn on a projector to distract him, or like putting like the battery where it needs to go. Well, not the battery, like big ass thing. I don't know what it is, but it's a big ass thing that you have to carry around. So yeah, that brings around the end for the first half of the chapter. Overall, I really liked the first half of this chapter. Now the second half, on the other hand, is where this chapter kind of falls apart in my opinion. So yeah, let's just talk about that right now. So I will say, the second half of this chapter feels kind of out of place, honestly. Like for the entirety of the first half of this chapter, we've been in this abandoned and run down lab. And then now we end up in this like colorful toy area with like a house and stuff. Like I get that this is a toy factory, but it still feels kind of out of place. And also, the character they introduced in the second half, Lily Lovebraids, I've seen like a lot of people not liking the design that much and a lot of people liking the design. For me, I think it's a good design, just not for a horror game. And I know a lot of people bring up the fact that it's a toy for kids, so it makes sense that it's not that scary. But like, you can do both. They could have made Lily Lovebraids look like she was a toy for kids, but also make her scary. Like, they could have given her, like, the uncanny vibe, kind of with the FNAF 1 animatronics. Like, those FNAF 1 animatronics both look scary and kid-friendly at the same time. So I think they could have done something similar to that with Lily Lovebraid's design. Or something they also could have done is maybe make her a little broken and withered and stuff. Or they could also do something with her where, like, when she's friendly to you, she doesn't really look that scary. But when she starts attacking you, that is when she turns scary. Like, I like a lot of stuff about Lily Lovebraids. I love her personality, her voice acting. I love most of the stuff with her. But I just don't really think the design looks great for a horror game in my opinion. And now, I also want to talk about the prototype. Because the prototype has been a big part of this chapter, and I have been loving the prototype in this chapter. He is menacing as hell throughout the entire chapter. And we also got the reveal of his design this chapter. And what do I think about this design? Well, I mean, it does look good. I'm not exactly sure what to feel about the design because it's a pretty solid design, honestly. Like, it's a really good design, but they had been hiding the prototype's design for so many years now that I was kind of expecting more. Like for the prototype, since we saw him like collect a part of Mommy Longlegs, collect Catnap, I thought that he was gonna be like an amalgamation of different toys, and he didn't really end up being that, which might be a good thing or might not be a good thing. Like, having him being an amalgamation of different toys, like, it could have looked horrible, but it could have also looked great. But like, we have like a small part of that where he has like Huggy Wuggy's arm sticking out, Kissy Missy's arm sticking out, and Mommy Longlegs' arm sticking out. That part of the design does look a little awkward in my opinion. Like, it retains the stuff I was hoping for with him being an amalgamation of toys, but it does look kind of awkward in my opinion. But overall, I think the design is solid, but I might also be a little disappointed just because I was hoping for a little more. But then again, it's a good design. I just don't know how to really feel about this design, honestly, since it had been hyped up for so long. But yeah, I do like his design, and I do think the prototype is a really good antagonist. But he killed Kissy Missy, and that is unforgivable. Rest in peace to the queen that is Kissy Missy. She deserved better. And I also really liked the train sequence. The train sequence was also probably one of the best parts of this chapter. I just thought the train sequence was so good and so incredibly tense, with just the prototype chasing after you and smashing through the windows and stuff. It was so incredibly tense and just epic and stuff, and I loved it. That train sequence was a big highlight of this chapter. But going into this chapter, I was kind of hoping that this chapter was gonna be the final chapter. Cause when chapter 4 ended, I thought like chapter 5 would be the perfect ending place to like wrap up the story. Cause like we're going into the lab, we're gonna face the prototype. But it didn't end up becoming the final chapter, and it kind of just feels like they're dragging it at this point. Because I feel like chapter 5 could have easily been the final chapter. Like, if they just cut out the whole Lily Lovebraid stuff and just focus that entire part on like the prototype and finding a way to like defeat the prototype and then defeating the prototype in the end, I feel like they should have just done that. Because again, it feels like they're just dragging it at this point, and it just feels like they're just doing it for the money now. Because like Poppy Playtime makes an insane amount of money from like the games, and I'm guessing that merchandise also does really well. But even though chapter 5 wasn't the end, I am still a little excited to see the Doctor in chapter 6, because he was a character that I thought had a lot of wasted potential in chapter 4. So I am glad that they're bringing him back. But again, I feel like they should have just ended Poppy Playtime with this chapter. But yeah, overall, I'm still a little mixed on this chapter. Like, there's a lot of stuff I love about this chapter, but there's also a lot of stuff I didn't really like about this chapter. And I think just this chapter didn't really make me that excited for chapter 6. Like, again, I'm excited for Harley Sawyer to come back, but as I said, it should have ended with chapter 5. But anyways, I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about Poppy Playtime Chapter 5? Let me know in the comments below. But I'll see you guys next time. Bye!